Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So see you again in this occasion. We will learn about the function of studying literature. In the last meeting, we have discussed about the definition of literature and also the definition of literary studies. So now we will discuss about the function of studying literature. What is the purpose? What is your intention? Our intention to study literature. So, literature is a broad term, but most people define it as a writing with lasting artistic, cultural, and or intellectual value. Berdasarkan definisi yang sudah kita bahas kemarin, yang mempunyai banyak definisi dari literature. So, most people define that it is writing with lasting, but art, culture, and also value. So, they are include that literature include such as ancient Greek plays, James Baldwin's essay, and Charlotte Bronte's novel. Those are some examples of literature. So this type of writing deals with complex issues and ideas, of course, encouraging readers to entertain new ways of thinking. Those kind of literature, of course, deal with some complex issues and also ideas, so that it also encourages the readers and entertain them in the new ways of thinking. So, when we study literature, our horizons are broadened because we can learn about and come to understand people who are different from us. When we study literature, then we expand our thinking. We don't only learn about something around us, but more than that. We can learn and we can understand people who are different from us, from any other countries, from any part of the world. So in academically, studying literature also help us to refine our writing skills and expand our vocabulary. Besides reading, so we can expand, we can improve our writing skill and also our vocabulary from those kind of literature. So, if we think, is it important for us to study literature? Is it important? So, the answer is of course, literature is important. In what ways the literature is important? There are many ways, there are many aspects. The first, literature is a powerful stress reliever. By reading this literature, the people can relieve their stress after working, after some problem, and etc. We can relieve it, or they can relieve it by reading that literature. So, it also full of imagination. In one of the definition of literature is related to imagination. So when we read about some literature, about fiction literature maybe, so it brings us to imagine what we read in that book. So reading literature improves concentration and focus. By reading, we also can improve the concentration and also improve our focus on one thing. What thing it is? So it is reading those literature. Reading literature keeps the brain active and healthy. Of course, it's right. Reading those literature, it help our brain to be active and also healthy. Literature expands a person's vocabulary. As we discussed before, literature also improve the people's vocabulary, because after reading we can get many new vocabularies, especially in that literature. So literature also improve a person's communication skill. How could it be? Because by reading this literature, we can know, we understand the other people from any part of the world, from any other countries, and it helps us in communication skill. It helps us to communicate between the people and any other example. So literature also encourages critical thinking. Nah, it's relate to the literary studies, berhubungan dengan literary studies. So it encourages us to have the critical thinking. Maksudnya adalah to criticize this literature. Bagaimanakah literatur A, bagaimanakah literatur B. Setelah ada konflik atau some issues or ideas in literature A, so what do you think? What do you get from the literature? What do you get after reading the literature? So it improves our critical thinking. So literature teaches reader about history. So there are many kinds of literatures. One of those are about history. So it also helps us to understand the history, to know about the history, any histories. If it is English literature, so it helps us to understand about the English history. Reading literature also can encourage the people's empathy. There are many characteristics in some literatures. So also there are many moral value we can get from this literature. So it can help us, it can improve our empathy to other peoples. So here we go. The function. There are many functions of literature. It creates to help language create a sense of identity and also community. Yeah, every indigenous community, every community has its own language and literature. Indonesia pasti punya literatur bahasa Indonesianya sendiri. So English also has its own English literature. India juga atau di negara-negara lainnya atau daerah tertentu pasti mempunyai literaturnya sendiri. So, what are the functions of those literature? The first, entertainment. So it's known as a pleasure reading. So the function, of course, entertain the reader by those literature so that the people can enjoy their life by reading the literature. So the second, social and political function. Literature shows how society works around them. Literatur itu menunjukkan bagaimana masyarakat itu bekerja di sekitarnya. The example social poetry by the title Human Being, written by Vince Suzadel Jr. So it is one of literature that has the function of social and political. Because in this literature, we can see the construction of social value described by Vince Suzadel Jr. The next, ideological function. Literature shapes our way of thinking based on the ideas of other people. Pemikiran kita bisa terbentuk dari pemikiran atau idea of other people, dari orang lain. Bisa terbawa ideologi atau pemikiran seseorang dari apa yang dia dengar dari orang lain. So, it also displays a person's ideology placed in the text consciously or unconsciously. It can be conscious or not. The example is the book written by Jacqueline Wilson, The Worst Thing About My Sister. It explained that we should love our family and also sister. But in the other thinking, some people or lots of people don't love their family, or especially in this book, it describes about the sister. So, next, it's about the moral function. It can, It can share to the people. It can share to the people about the moral value. Many literatures contain some moral value in it, whether it is good or bad, so the people can get the moral value from those literature. The example here is about the Beauty and the Beast book. We can find that the beauty is not everything from this book, from this literature. We must not to be arrogant, and also we have to be kind to the others, and those are some moral value from this book. From the other literature or from the other books, we also can get the other moral values with the different aspect. So, the another one of the function of literature is linguistic function. Literature preserves the language of every civilization from where it originated. The function is about language. There are also evidence that a certain civilization has existed. Jadi literatur itu membuktikan bahwa suatu kaum atau suatu kelompok orang itu exist atau ada. The example is Beowulf poet is used the Old English language. Berarti di zaman dulu atau literaturnya itu menggunakan Old English language. Atau the other example is ada Blessed Otero that he wrote his poem used Spanish language because he's originated from Bilbao, Spanyol. Jadi dari literatur tersebut membuktikan bahwa the first ada Old English language, dan juga yang kedua the Blessed Otero itu dari Spanyol. So, the next, cultural function. Literature orients us to the tradition, folklore, and the arts of our ethnic group's heritage. Of course, from the literature, we can also study about the culture. Not only the culture of our country, but also the culture from the other countries, from their literatures. It also can create an imprint of the people's way of living for others to read, hear, and learn. The example is the folklore from Indonesia, Tangkuban Perahu. Atau it's about culture. Or the another one, it's about the English folklore by the title Three Little Pigs. From those two different literature, they have in this literature, of course, it has different culture between Indonesian culture, Indonesian art language, and also English language. So the next function is educational function. It teaches us many things about the human experience. Fungsinya yang digunakan untuk pembelajaran. Dari literatur tersebut, kita bukan hanya membaca, tapi kita juga bisa mempelajari tentang human experience. Because of course, the author who wrote this literature come up with the people's experience for their inspiration. So, literature therefore is accounted for the chance to experience and feel things where we can learn things about life. Life educates people. The experience of life educates the people. And we can get this education by reading the literature. And the last one, it is historical function. There are many literatures in the old years. Ancient texts, illuminated scripts, or stone tablets. It keeps a record of events that happened in the place where they originate. From those literature, we can understand what happened in the past days, or from those literature, we can learn about the history. Then the literature also has function as historical function. So the example is Danhong manuscript. Then from those ancient texts or scripts or stone tablets, manuscript, and etc., many people, many scholars, or many researchers, they study about those literature. So that's all about the function of studying literature. From this, we know and understand that literature is also important in studying language, and studying those literature can give us many benefits, many functions we can get after reading those literature. So that's all about the material today. So next we will discuss further about the literature and also the literary studies. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.